haven't done one of these videos in multiple weeks, which kind of defeats the purpose of it being a weekly movie recommendation, but oh well. This week I'm going to recommend the movie Attack the Block, written and directed by Joe Cornish, who also co-wrote movies like The Adventures of Tintin and Ant-Man. So it's a guy who knows adventure and comedy and how to blend those two genres really well. This movie is an interesting indie film that is a sci-fi action movie with bits of comedy sprinkled in, but it's not at the forefront of comedy. I was first drawn to this movie because it's John Boyega's first big role. John Boyega is the guy who plays Finn in Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and I'm a big Star Wars fan, so I figured I would enjoy this movie, or at least his role in it, because I really like sci-fi. I really like sci-fi action. I really love the British humor that Joe Cornish brings to films like Ant-Man and The Adventures of Tintin. I both really enjoyed those movies. But this movie is interesting because the main characters are intentionally not likable. John Boyega's character is the leader of this teenage gang in London, and the film, I'm not going to spoil anything, but the film opens up with them mugging a woman. So it's really interesting that the first scene that you see in the movie is the main characters doing something that completely isolates them and separates them from the audience, because I'm assuming most people who have seen the movie haven't mugged a woman. So that's a really interesting dynamic that this film brings that I think is really unique. And the plot, there's really no spoiler. I guess characters die, so that's a spoiler thing, but I'm not going to go into that. But the plot is very basic. The gang mugs this girl, and then immediately after, a meteor crashes, and an alien is in the meteor, and they kill it. And then, immediately after multiple meteors crash, and aliens invade Earth. And it's just this gang of teenage boys beating up aliens, and they get stuck with the girl they mugged, which brings in this really interesting dynamic on their characters. It humanizes them, and it gives them the chance to explain, we did this, we're just teenage boys, blah, blah, blah. And it humanizes their characters, and it makes them more relatable in a way that isn't overly cheesy or eye-rolly. It's not none of them are well, I'm really poor, and I needed that money to save my dying sister. It's none of that. It's just we're a bunch of bored teenage boys and we mugged you. We're sorry, but we did it. And it's really interesting, and it's something I haven't seen in any other movie. So if you're not into sci-fi or action or anything, see this movie just for that dynamic and for that character study, because it's really something that's unique that this film brings to the table. But otherwise, this film is really reminiscent of 80s adventures movies like The Goonies, E.T. I know Stranger Things, I haven't seen it, but I know a lot of people are really interested into Stranger Things right now. This movie kind of has a similar dynamic, and it's the group of kids fighting an alien. I haven't seen Stranger Things, so I don't know if the monster is an alien or not. I'm just spitballing. I'm just saying it has a similar dynamic to Stranger Things and to 80s movies with the groups of kids solving a mystery and fighting monsters and stuff like that. So if you're into those kinds of movies, then this is absolutely right up your alley. It's humorous. It has some really great characters. They use mostly practical special effects for all of the aliens, which is really interesting to see. There's some really great puppeteering and some really great special effects work that really make this movie pop. And really gives it this unique flair that not many other sci-fi movies have. But otherwise, this was just a really enjoyable movie with some really interesting characters, some really interesting things to say, and it was just really entertaining. Had some really good action, some decent jokes here and there. If there's one thing I have to caution about this movie, it's that it's unapologetically British. The accents are very thick. They reference a lot of British things that American viewers probably won't get, and some lines just come off as so boy, and it's what? I didn't get that. But if you can get past that, because the lines are few and far between that you can't really understand, or they reference something that you don't know, it's still cohesive, and it's still you can still understand it. But that's something to keep in mind when you're watching it. But yeah, so this week I'm going to recommend the movie Attack the Block by Joe Cornish.